Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garden Party, the world's most famous podcast.
When I say New York in the 2010s, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
The beginning of the decade was the decision, and everyone was talking about LeBron this, LeBron that.
Yeah.
Everyone knew that Amar'e was on the table.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's true, because I was actually in Phoenix trying to negotiate my situation with the Suns at the time. And then once free agency hit, it was a whole frenzy of that during that time. And then so I thought about New York because I was raised here. Mm-hmm. And then plus Mike D'Antoni was a coach.
Yeah, I know
and
that.
so I'm like, all right, well, there's some synergy there. If I do something with the Knicks, I know I got a coach that knows my game and how I play. And then so when the Miami Heat was kind of stalling and trying to figure out what they're going to do with LeBron or whoever, everyone's waiting on LeBron to make a decision. And I'm like, I'm not sticking around for that.
No.
And so I came to New York, signed the contract, and from that point on, it was like the Knicks are back, and we was on the ground, hit the ground running.
I remember you wore that beautiful
too,
gray
yo.
suit. You wore that beautiful gray suit, and you put the hat on, and you're in front of the garden, and you took that great photograph of you with your arms stretched out, and I actually printed that on a T-shirt. I had that forever. I had that printed on a T-shirt.
2010s for me is crazy because that's pretty much when I played ball in high school and in college.
Mm-hmm.
That's when my high school career was ending, and that's when my college career was starting. But I stayed
Where was that?
in New York.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Brooklyn. Stayed local for school too. So I went to school right here in the city. I went to Baruch.
What position?
I played the guard. I played the two.
Okay.
So I was a
shooting guard.
Yeah, but I remember, the conversation was around Stoudemire about to come to the Knicks. For me, I used to play with the Suns on NBA Live 2005.
Oh, man.
So I was already familiar with Stoudemire, yo.
Matrix.
So I'm like, hold on, this is the same Stoudemire about to come to the Knicks. Oh, we back.
Yeah.
Like, we
with
back.
D'Antoni.
With that, thank you.
Yeah,
so I'm
exactly.
like, we back. So
2010s for me was all about discovering the Knicks and basketball because in 2010, I was 7 years old, so I was pretty young. I hadn't started playing basketball up until that point, 7-8 years old. I really started playing because I was watching the Knicks, and watching the Knicks, as you said, they're back, they're prospering. I wanted to play like the guys I was watching on the TV. So that's really when I discovered how to play basketball. I would take a lot of notes from you guys, Melo, all those guys during the 2010s team. Basketball was a huge part of my life. It still is, but in a different way, obviously. And it's all about, that entire decade of the 2010 discovering basketball.
So who'd you mock your game after?
I want to hear this because you helped me with my teammates.
I think my game, I'm not totally sure exactly. I took pieces from everybody, right? Like my favorite player was Michael Jordan. I watched a lot of Sean Kemp. I did watch a lot of Shaq because I grew up in Florida also.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of Shaq because Shaq and Penny was in Orlando and I was growing up there. But my game was based upon being versatile. You know what I'm saying? So I always kind of like took a little bit from everybody that I thought was really good players and tried to apply that to my game. Mm-hmm. And my sign with the Knicks in 2010, I felt like one reason why I signed with the Knicks at that time because Mike D'Antoni was a coach that would allow me to show my full game.
From 2008 to 2010, President Donnie Walsh rebuilt the Knicks roster around talented young players like Danilo Gallinari and Wilson Chandler. Coach Mike D'Antoni installed a high-energy offense. They just needed a superstar. Fortunately, the free agent class of 2010 had numerous options, including a 5-time All-Star big man.
And so I knew if I signed here in 2010 that I can show my full arsenal and I can be a complete leader and lead the young guys to now, go toward the playoffs. And so that was one of the main reasons why I signed with the Knicks back in 2010.
6 seconds or less.
At 12 o'clock, like free agency starts, midnight. First call I received was from Pat Riley, the Miami Heat.
Wow.
The first
What did he say?
call.
What did he say, Pat Riley?
He's like, we want you here in Miami. Been a fan of your game. We tried to draft you.
You're Miami too. You're
He's like, we tried to move up in the draft to draft you, but the Suns took you at 9. We had the 10th pick.
Wow.
And then all the calls start coming in, all the teams. The Nets called, like 7 to 8 teams start calling me.
Wow.
And then I start analyzing the situation, like where I want to go. I'm like, I'm going to New York, bro. It's not even if the Heat calls back and there's something there, then okay, possibly. But right now I'm going to New York. I'm not going anywhere else. And we started negotiating and got the deal done. And then that slogan, the Knicks are back, was because I knew that I was going to bring other players to New York. Like,
You
it's going to
did,
be.
Yeah, what's that conversation like with trying to, at least at that time, trying to bring players to New York?
I mean, at first, when I first signed, it was more so like, which guards am I going to bring? Like, which point guard? Chris Paul, Tony Parker.
Wow.
like
Tony Parker
Aaron-
was in the conversation?
Hearing this is like, yo.
Who else?
imagine?
Who else?
Yeah, but Ray Felton was a perfect fit. Cause
Yeah, I love
like,
Ray Felton.
He was. I mean, he was.
He's perfect.
He just could body it. He was so much bigger than other
He was
guards.
like one of those like hefty guards.
Yeah.
That was a difference. Like, and good ball control.
So guard wise, I mean, my game is based upon being, like for the ball to move, right? The best guard situation for me was like Steve Nash, for an example.
Yeah.
He was a pass first point guard, so everybody on the court can be great at what they do. So that way, when I get the rock, it's like, all right, no double team, no triple team, you can't. So now I can go off for 30, 40 points a night. And same with New York. When I signed here with New York, it was like Raymond Felton. He knew my game.
Yeah.
We played together in high school, and so it was the same type of concept. And as you can see, that year in 2010, everybody was prospering, right?
Yeah.
Woodson Chandler was scoring 16 points a game, almost an all-star. Gallinari was scoring 15, 16 a game. But New York was on fire, bro. Like, you don't understand, man. Everywhere we went, restaurants, meals on the house, drinks on the house, don't pay for nothing. Come in through the back door anytime, private. You got whatever you want, whatever you need.
People knew you when
That's why the title Stat City was a big title when I signed here, because the city was like, it was like Stat City for real. And all my teammates was loving it. You know what I'm saying? When I came into the Knicks, I was like, the players was not staying in the city.
That's crazy.
I'm like, so where y'all staying?
They all live in Westchester.
Oh, we out in Westchester and Tarrytown. What?
Yeah.
No chance. I'm not staying out there. So I found me a place in the city, got this penthouse. And so at that time, like, well, I owned a show called The Rock of Ages, a Broadway show.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So I was already producing Broadway shows.
That's amazing.
Before I signed with the Knicks. I lived in the city. I was going to the opera. I was going to the Met Galas. I was on the board of the Met Gala with Vogue and
That's
the Wintour.
amazing. You ran the city. You were running
That's what I was
the
about to
city.
say. This sounds New York.
But nobody was doing that. I'm like,
What about jewelry though?
jewelry wise, I had my pieces,
Yeah.
right?
Was that something you had to like amplify once you got here?
No, I grew up in Florida, right? So in Florida we got grills, golds. My family, my brothers and moms got grills. You know what I'm saying? Like gold and jewelry was always a part of, like, it's a Florida thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was always a part of my persona.
Mm-hmm.
But just engulf myself in New York City alone was a space that nobody was doing. And that's how, again, that Stat City title came about, because I was red carpet at the opera.
Yeah, of course.
Like, no, who goes to the opera?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Was 6 seconds or less like a real thing with D'Antoni? Was that like you literally would play, like do scrimmages where you?
Yeah, I mean, 7 seconds or less was
7
the title.
seconds. My bad.
And it was like, whenever the ball goes through the basket, just take it out quick.
Yeah.
And we're back down the court. And I took pride in being in top shape, right? So I would train extremely hard all summer. Weight training, conditioning, basketball, more basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
All summer. Nash was playing soccer somewhere in South Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he just constantly in great cardiovascular shape. Sean Marion is one of the fastest guys I ever played with. And so once the ball go through the basket, we take the ball out quick and we're gone.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's a 3 here, Stoudemire the dunk, Nash with the layup, and by the time 7 seconds come off the clock, we're back the other way.
We used to run that in school, like in my college. Like, it was the job for the bigs to get the ball out, the wings outlet, you out of there. Your job is to get a bucket one way or another. And I used to
You lose a lot of long
that
rebounds,
reason.
though. You lose a lot of long rebounds.
Yeah, you lose
But,
those
I mean,
sometimes.
we'd rather lose those and then might get a bucket at the other end.
man, that
You're
was
in the basket like you won't believe. You wake up fourth quarter, everyone's grabbing the shorts, they're tired. We're like, hey, man, let's keep this thing going.
So I know that whole, when you were scoring 30 points over and over, what was it, 8 or 9 in a row? How did you feel? On top of the world during that streak?
I felt like it was needed, right? Because we started out, okay, average. I felt like I was being too passive by trying to get all my teammates involved. And I was scoring like 25 here and there, 23. Everybody's getting numbers, but we were losing. So I got fed up. I'm like, all right, enough of that. So I started going off. I had 38 and then 41, then 33.
I remember the 41.
And I'm like, we started winning. We won like
it's really happening.
9 straight games or something like that. I'm like, there's no slowing down at this point. And so the reason why that happened, because I had to score. I had to really put the team on my back because we needed that energy.
Yeah.
And I just kept going.
7 months after signing Amar'e, the Knicks made their second defining move of the decade, acquiring Carmelo Anthony from Denver in exchange for Felton, Chandler, Gallinari, and others. The deal cashed in New York's young core for one of the greatest scorers in NBA history.
What was it like in the locker room during that time, knowing he could possibly come, and then also what he mentioned, would it be now or would it be in the summer?
Yeah, it was a moment where I knew Melo wanted to come to New York, right? He would call me, he would talk to me about it, and he would ask me, I want to come to New York. How can we make it happen? All these things. So I was trying to figure it out as well for him. Now, I'm not a GM. I don't know how it works as far as, trades, how many picks, what all this stuff involves. I'm like, yeah, we need some backup. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need more players to come to New York. So I was open to it. The rest of the players were kind of like, well, I don't want to leave Stat City.
Yeah, of course.
The city's on fire. We're winning. Everyone loves us. So the players didn't want to get traded. They didn't want to leave. We were having a great time. And so when Melo came, then it was like another wave of energy that we all had to somewhat adjust to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, even the New York had to adjust to, because that was like another one where we were like, wait, what? This is actually, we were also like, Stat City, like, that's it? Like, but it was like a hopeful again, seeing that happen.
So the energy was cool when you came into the locker room.
Yeah, Melo and I we were.
Well, I knew you've known each other since you were probably 14 years old.
Yeah, so
that's what's crazy. People don't realize that all these everybody
so long in the world makes the world so much smaller.
And then you realize like every player, you guys have. It's like you've known each other since you were 12 years old, 13 years old.
Yeah, I was a rookie when I got drafted out of high school to Phoenix.
Yeah, I remember. That's right.
So my brother was locked up upstate New York. So I'm going upstate to see him. I stopped by Syracuse to see Melo.
Oh, that's sick.
He's on campus, right? So So I stopped by Syracuse. We hang out, a little frat party, whatever, hang out.
You went to a frat party with Melo?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was cool. We're just vibing. But I was saying it to say this, that Melo and I have been friends since high school. You know what I'm saying? So the energy, it was never bad energy when Melo came. It's a matter of just trying to figure out how to play together and get everyone involved.
Because being that you guys are also friends, I'm wondering, what were those initial phone calls with you and Melo like? Is calling you as like the homie, like, hey, I'm trying to come in. Is it like, yo, I'm trying to get buckets too? Like, is this a good move for me? Personally, if like we homies and you come into the team, I'm gonna look out for you like that and for myself. So I'm just wondering, like, what are those conversations like? What were they like?
Yeah, it was more so him wanting to come to New York, right? He wanted to come to New York.
So he wanted to come, kind of thing. Word.
Ask how can it happen? How can you get there? All these things, right? So I was like, we'll welcome you here.
How did you guys make it work on the court together? I know that was a hard adjustment.
We were persistent on trying to figure it out. Put Melo at the 4, I play the 5. That's a hard combination of 4 or 5
on offense.
And Mike D'Antoni had that mindset even back in Phoenix, where I played the 5 at times. Sean Amar'e moved to the 4. He's a natural 3 man.
Yep.
And we created this whole flow.
You played
of basketball.
small a lot, yeah.
Took a little bit of time, but we got it worked out eventually.
How do you guys feel that first year having Stat and Melo on the team? I'm sure there was a lot of hope going into the next season. As a fan thinking,
yeah, for sure,
this is going to be the decade. We win at some point.
At some point, yeah. That's what it was.
We tried.
And even if winning didn't come immediately, just the energy in New York was like, yo, we got 2 heavy hitters here. Like, if it doesn't hit today, it's gonna hit tomorrow.
It was when those vets started to come. This person make this person better. Like Tony Douglas, all of a sudden is like Knicks fans would be like screaming MVP while he's at the free throw line.
That's a Knicks fan thing to do.
But I'm sure I'm sure your point of view of Knicks fans is like, wow, people are cheering for a pick. Like you said a pick, and all of a sudden you hear like people.
It was insane, bro. Oh yeah, no, it was. I know the fans at that time were like off the charts.
Oh, it was
the
a
MVP
crazy
chance was the Garden was rocking, bro.
Yeah,
like you could feel the building move.
There was a Spurs game that we played. I think maybe 2011, maybe 2000. I don't remember. We scored like 150 points. You remember that?
I do.
And we blew them out. And I was like, me and my brother, we were like section like 120, 1 something. And I remember it was like we won the championship. People were ready to throw a parade because we beat the Spurs by like 40 points. And I remember the interview with Pop afterwards, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Someone scores 150 points. We scored 110. We should have won the game. What does that squad do if there's no trade?
I mean, we're a playoff team.
Yeah.
Well, you're a playoff team.
But we got swept that year.
Yeah, we did. We did get swept, but we played the Celtics first round. I
Tough.
think we would have finished a higher seed.
And that Celtics team was
Because at that time, we were moving up in the rankings for our seeding wise, and we were winning, and we were moving up in those standings. So we wouldn't have, if that team would have stayed put, we wouldn't have dropped so low. Because I think we went from like the 4th seed, then after the trade went down to the 8th seed.
I remember, yeah.
And then playing now the number 1 seed, which is the Celtics, the first round.
Yeah.
And we lost. We got swept by those guys.
That was tough. Yeah, that was like the last great run that they had.
Yeah.
2011-12 was Amar'e and Carmelo's first full season together. The Knicks were 8-15 in February. D'Antoni inserted backup point guard Jeremy Lin into the starting lineup. Lin went absolutely insane, going from a complete unknown to a worldwide phenomenon in the span of a 7-game New York win streak.
Linsanity was an insane time, and his jersey was the first piece of Knicks fan gear I personally owned. I mean, I had a bunch in the family, but that was the first one I owned. I wore it to school. I felt proud the same way he was feeling, going crazy at the Garden every night. I mean, I don't even know how to describe that
was crazy. Like,
I mean, for you, like you,
I'm like, what the hell's going on? He was one of our guys who, like the 12th, 13th, 14th man on the roster.
Yeah.
So you brought up earlier.
You know what I'm saying? My brother had passed away.
Oh, that's right. That's when you got the tattoo. That's right.
So I had to fly to Florida, and I think Melo was hurt. And and someone else was hurt. So Lin had to
it was against the Nets.
He had to step in. I think so. One of those games.
And he came out and people were like, oh my God, Lin, he won the game. He came in and put in crazy
I'm down
minutes.
In Florida, like,
this is my teammate.
Hold on. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, that was wild.
He had 35?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then
the following game against the Lakers, he had like 38. That era was crazy. The whole city was on fire once again. It was like back in 2010.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that was
me and Lane was doing like the little.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Before the game started, get the little energy, cheat energy going. He was on fire.
What was the vibe in the locker room during that?
We was loving it.
Yeah.
We was loving it.
Yeah, how can you not, as a teammate too?
That was probably one of the greatest sports stories of all time.
Oh yeah.
It was a nice little 10-game stretch, and then reality set in. Once the scouting report came out, then it was hard for Jeremy to get his points off. But that's why you have players like myself who will set a screen for him to get him open.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you attack from there. Like, you take some of the pressure off of players like that. So it's always helpful to have teammates that's willing to help you succeed. But during that stretch, man, that was a crazy run. One game against the Raptors, and we was like, I think we're down 1.
Oh my God.
Is that when you hit the game winner?
And I'm like, hold on, man. What you doing with the ball, man? Hey, man, bring that ball over here. I'm about to win the game. But
what was the play drawn up?
When he backed it up, and he asked, like, no screens. I'm like, okay, look at him. So he came down with a little hesitation, pulled up, hit the game winner. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm with that. I'm cool with that.
That was wild.
I love to see him succeed because those are the storylines you don't really see often.
Absolutely.
You see a player who stuck with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, 15th guy on the roster, worked hard every practice, waited for his moment, took advantage of his moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the moments you cheer for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think the craziest part about his whole story, I watched his documentary, is that during that entire time he was sleeping on people's couches. He said he was on Landry Field's couch at one point, his brother's couch, and because
he didn't even have a contract.
Yeah, he was the star of New York, but he was sleeping on the couch, and that's wild to think about.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Linsanity propelled New York to a second straight postseason appearance in 2012. D'Antoni resigned late in that season and was replaced by assistant Mike Woodson. Woodson's first full year, 2012-13, was the best in recent Knicks memory. 54 wins, a division title, and a playoff series win over Boston.
What Woodson did during his era was we had a lot of veteran players.
Yeah, Jason Kidd, Baron Davis.
We had vets. We had good guys that wanted to win. Yeah, it was a Knickstape era at that time. We were walking, I think, in one city on the West Coast. And I think Shump and BD was starting to rap, and then I threw a few verses in, and I was like, "This is the Knickstape."
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Everybody was like, Knickstape. So that whole era started when I was like, "Yo, this is the Knickstape," and it became a whole thing, right?
Oh, of course, man.
Y'all should have dropped something.
Because Shump and BD always rapping, they always trying to rap. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I got a few bars too I can throw in there. And so that's how the whole Knickstape era started, because we were all in that mix. And then, but back to your question about Mike Woodson, is that having all those veteran players, right, from J. Kidd to Camby to Kurt to Rasheed Wallace to Baron Davis, all those guys had no ego, right? And so we all figured out how to play together, Tyson Chandler, because we were able to play together. We went to the second round, I think that was.
That was a 54-win season.
54 wins that season.
That was a great run.
Yeah.
That was like, I think there's a banner for that. I think we won the Atlantic Division.
We won the
Atlantic
Division.
That was our last banner. Who's your favorite shooter on the Knicks? Novak
was one of my favorite shooters on the Knicks at the time.
Who'd you like to dump it out to
who would you
him?
like to play with, though? Yeah.
I'm giving the ball to Melo.
Yeah.
I'm giving the ball to Melo. Anytime the clock running low, if it's not me, I'm giving the ball to Melo.
Jeremy Lin.
Nah. I can't give it to Jeremy Lin, but
Lin was
your go-to.
I'm going with Melo for sure.
Go-to.
No, Melo is, I think, percentage-wise, the most clutch player, I think you're right. Of all time. I mean, it's him and MJ up there. But I think Melo has like the most, you know. Yeah. I remember reading
fact check that. You might be right.
Clutch games, right?
Well, I remember you were there for the 62-point game, right?
That was there, yeah.
That was beautiful.
That was crazy.
It was nice that a Knick. It's nice that a Knick finally had that record.
Yeah.
Even when you became an all-star, that was sick. I'm like, well, you got an all-star.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
We didn't have all-star for a long time.
That was the first all-star starter since Pat Ewing.
That's crazy.
From 2014 to 2017, the Knicks were run by Phil Jackson. Jackson had played in New York from 1967 to 1978 and won 2 rings before coaching the Bulls and Lakers to 11 championships. He hired Derek Fisher as head coach and then Jeff Hornacek. Amar'e departed for Dallas in 2015.
So when Phil came, he wanted to implement the triangle offense, which I thought would have been great for Melo because him, Jordan, Kobe, all are like ISO one-on-one guys. You get the ball from every angle, right? Both blocks, the elbow, top of the key. You form a triangle in every single spot. Yeah. So you got space to operate. I thought that would have been great, but it didn't work out that way.
Well, the game changed. The game in the NBA just became more of like all spacing, perimeter, shoot 33s a game.
That was definitely when I started. So it was like trying to implement that during that time was like trick. And as fans, we like stuck with it trying to see because it was Phil Jackson. Exactly, because of who it was. But
and then I remember he drafted.
If you watch the game of basketball, right? If you really analyze the game, everything is based upon angles. Like I talked to Tim Duncan back when I was playing for the Olympics, and I asked him some questions like, some pointers. I need some pointers. He was like, I use angles. Everyone on the court use angles. So I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So when he shoots, when he's on the block, that's what he uses a backboard. He finds himself in certain spots in the court.
Like billiards, like pool.
He's angling himself, you know what I'm saying? And I started watching the game like, the game is based upon angles. Yeah. Even though now it's like, everyone shoots threes, but you throw it into the post, you have one guy at the top of the key, one guy in the corner. It's all, you know what I'm saying? You back cut, it's like all angles. And so even today's game, it's not called a triangle, but you still see a lot of triangles on the court.
That's right. That's right. You went to Dallas. Phil was still at the Knicks? Yeah. So you went to Phil and you're like, look, I think we won like 17 games.
Yeah, I can't stick around with this. No one wants to buy into the triangle offense. Yeah. There's a divide in the locker room on who wants to even try it, who doesn't even want to give it a shot.
And Hornacek was like,
Derek Fisher, those guys is like, I'm not sure what to do, bro. Like nobody's even trying to listen. I'm like, man, I can't stick around for this. I mean, I don't know.
No one was happy with Phil as
it wasn't really his fault, right? It was more so us not really buying into it. He's the greatest coach of all time.
100%.
But when he comes to you and say, hey, I want you to try this, I think this would be great for you. Yeah. And you say, I don't think it's gonna work. It's like,
yeah, exactly. You're like, what?
How the coach supposed to say at that point?
What can he do?
He can't do anything.
So that's why I was like, I don't know if I can stick around. I mean,
how did you prepare for, like, let's say a player like another all-star like yourself, knowing that you'd have to see them again? Say you were playing LeBron twice in one season. How would you make sure, like, all right, I'm not necessarily, LeBron's not practicing with me, but I'm prepping for this matchup kind of thing?
You playing against LeBron. All right, LeBron, he got to bring it the same way we're going to bring it. You know what I'm saying? So we have that same mentality against any player we play against. Playing against Kevin Garnett, he's going to have a long night. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure we're going to have to guard him too, right? But he's going to have a hard time guarding us. So we have that mentality every game, every team we play. We have that same type of thought process. And when you go into the games, when you train for that, right? In your off season, we train to be the best, right? We don't take no shortcuts, right? Sometimes we do extra. Like Kobe Bryant, for an example, he would go to the gym. I was with the Olympic team. I'm going to the gym at 5:30 in the morning. I'm
ahead of the curve.
That's an early call for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Kobe's already there with a full sweat.
Yeah.
So the pros, the guys on that level, prepare and train for when that moment comes to play against a LeBron James, for an example, or you're playing against a Tim Duncan, for an example. You know what I'm saying? These all-time greats. When you're playing against a Kobe Bryant,
KG,
you know what I'm saying? Bless his memory. You got to have that off-season training mentally prepares you for those moments. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, let's go back to KG for 1 second because I put KG. KG replaced him in a movie I did. And I wrote the movie, started writing in 2009 and then 2010, I'm watching the Knicks unfold and I wrote a whole part for Amar'e. And then I met you through Lenny Cook documentary very briefly. You show up in it. And then we ended up, it was Joel Embiid for a little bit. And then Joel had to drop out because we were shooting during the season, and you were playing, and you wouldn't cut your hair you couldn't cut your hair.
That's why you didn't want to do the movie?
Well, no, I couldn't. I was in a Nazareth vow. So with a Nazareth, according to the Torah, once you can't cut your hair until your hair becomes fully locked.
Got it.
The movie centered around a handful of games, and we wrote this plot around the games themselves. So we had 2010. I think the movie originally took place over the course of that stretch you had. I think it was like 9 games over 30 points or something like that. And then we have a reference in the movie because Sandler goes up to KG and he says, "Did Amar'e have time on the clock?" Which was a very memorable game when you hit that half court shot.
Right.
He's like, "No, Amar'e didn't have time on the clock." And he thinks, he's like, "What's this guy, a coach?" But for me, the 2010s was wild because I started that era writing a movie about basically the 2010 Knicks, ended up making a 2012 sadly Celtic movie, but then then the movie comes out 2019 and it's still in theaters when the pandemic hit, and that we got Randle. I remember Randle showed up, and I remember thinking he was good on the Lakers and he was good on the Pelicans, so I was like, all right, let's see what this is.
That's how it works, though. I mean,
every team
every decade you look at teams, right, and you break down the decade of each team. It's going to start out great. And there's going to be some down moments, and it's going to pick up again. And that's what I've noticed with the Knicks when I signed in 2010. Great high moment, right? Beautiful, successful. Few years, we had nice runs. Then it dropped a little bit. And then now we bring in Randle and the new guys to end the decade out. Now we're back up to where we need to be.
Yeah.
It's just a matter. It's always a constant flow of like evolution within a decade. Start out great. Sometimes you drop a little bit and you just pick it back up.
I'm proud to be sitting at this table with.
Same, especially now. This is
really
let's go. You heard me.
If that city was a thing, and like that energy, and for it to be relevant again today, just says so much about New York.
Yeah, no doubt.
In its entirety. So
resilience, New York, right?
Yeah,
like the decade of the 2010 era shows you it's like a mock of New York. It's like resilient. There's high, beautiful moments. New York's the greatest city in the world. And there's some downfalls maybe, right? Some things may not work out as great. You got to work hard to build back up. And then you work hard, you build back up to the top again. So that decade of like,
keep
reminds me of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there was a lot of up and downs in this decade, but I would say that as Knicks fans, especially those that would go to the Garden, even when we had losing records, those losing years, they would celebrate everything they'd get, every bucket they'd get. And even if this was a team that only won 17 games and they were playing against, it was a close game. Let's say it was a close game in the fourth quarter. You wouldn't think this was a losing team. A
sell out every night.
It's
Broadway.
It's crazy.
It's Broadway.
It's like a playoff atmosphere in
every
there.
time.
Always.
The crowd will take anything. We'll take anything, like whether it's a moment where Mario Hezonja blocks LeBron. We'll go crazy over moments like that. And even if it's not the biggest player shooting those shots or doing the little things like that, the Garden celebrated it, and that's all about what that decade's about. Taking the wins.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
And there you have it. The Knicks of the 2010s. The rest of the story, well, you already know. Signing Julius Randle at the end of the decade set the stage for all the success we're already seeing in the 2020s. I'm New York Nico, and this has been The Garden Party. Thank you so much for watching.